if you love butter chicken, you might love this even more. We'll begin by rinsing our rice. What we're using here is basmati rice. Basmati is a long grain rice, which means those individual grains stay separate and light. I find that the fastest way to rinse rice is by adding just a small amount of water and then stir in a bowl with your fingertips to let all those grains rub against each other to quickly remove all that excess starch. We want each individual grain of rice to be separate. Once you've rinsed your rice, cook it using whatever method you prefer. I'm using a rice maker because it'll work in the background while we make our paneer butter masala. Paneer is a fresh Indian cheese, sort of like a mild mozzarella that doesn't melt when it's heated. And the best part, it's really easy to make. You just add a bunch of fresh milk to a pot, then turn up the heat and bring it to a gentle boil. Once you start to see some light bubbles forming on the side, cut the heat and add your lemon juice, then give it a quick couple seconds stir and leave it. Almost immediately, you'll start to see it separate into curds and whey. After about 2 to 3 minutes, we'll strain our cheese using cheesecloth, where it'll now very clearly separate between the cheese curds on top and the whey, which we'll eventually discard, on the bottom. As a final step, we'll give it a rinse with some cold water to remove any extra whey. And once all of that has drained off, we'll add it to a square container, then spread it all out evenly, and then using another container, press it down firmly, just like you would some tofu if you want to firm it up, then place it in the fridge to firm up until you're ready to use it. As always, I'm using movie magic, so we don't even have to wait. Moving carefully now, I'm gonna separate my cheese from the edges of my pan, and once it looks like it's mostly released, I'll flip this onto my cutting board. Now we'll begin to cut it into nice even squares. I find it really helpful to rinse the knife under warm water between every cut, just because this is fresh cheese and it's simply not going to be as easy to work with as store-bought cheese. And once we've got these nice squares, it's time to cook. Heat on medium. Normally I prefer stainless steel pans, but because our cheese is fresh and I don't want it to stick, I'm going to use non-stick here. We're searing our paneer right now before it goes later into our sauce, not only so it can get that texture and flavor, but also so that it can hold up in that sauce later on. Making paneer fresh like this is so much better than store-bought because it absorbs the sauce extremely well. And it's the same sauce that you'd find in a butter chicken, but instead of coating that chicken, it's going to coat and soak into this cheese. Once you feel you've gotten a beautiful golden brown crust on both sides of your cheese, move them off to a paper towel lined baking tray, and then repeat the same process with the rest of your cheese. I got a little too excited on the first batch and made some pretty big pieces of cheese. I'm going to try to make the rest a little smaller and more bite-sized. Delicious. To make our butter masala, the last component of our dish, we'll add some butter over medium heat to a heavy bottomed pot, then toss in some onions and cook them low and slow until soft and translucent. We're not looking for them to be caramelized here, we want them mild and sweet. After cooking these for about 8 minutes, we'll add our ginger garlic paste and cook until the raw smell disappears, about 30 seconds. Now, we'll add in our tomato puree, as well as some Kashmiri chili powder, coriander, garam masala, a sprinkle of sugar, a pinch of salt, and I'm just now realizing I forgot to add my oil from earlier. Stir this up, and once it comes to a boil, reduce the heat to low and let it cook until the sauce thickens and the oil starts to separate at the edges. If you want that ultra creamy restaurant style look, this would be the time to blend your gravy. Here, I'm going to use an immersion blender because it's faster and easier in this case, but you could also transfer this to a blender and then back into the pot. Once that's done, add some vegetable or chicken stock and bring this to a gentle simmer for 20 minutes. Once thickened to your liking, finish it off with some heavy cream, dried fenugreek leaves, and because this is just like butter chicken, more butter. And once that's all been stirred and melted down, add in your paneer and simmer gently for 2 to 3 minutes. We want to give it some time to take on the flavor of that gravy without overcooking it. While this finishes cooking, I'm just going to quickly heat up some leftover homemade naan I had from the other day. I even put some pretty cool patterns in there. And once warm, I'll paint it with some melted ghee and hit it with a little flaky sea salt. And now it's time to plate. I'm going to add my rice to a bowl on the side. Then I'll add lots and lots of my paneer butter masala to a bowl, along with a bit of cream, some of our melted ghee, and a few leaves of parsley. This is what I call the perfect bite. I always thought butter chicken couldn't be rivaled. It's rich, buttery, and tomatoey, but then you get this warm spice from the garam masala and coriander, and then that fresh paneer is mild and milky, so it absorbs all that flavor and keeps every bite so incredibly balanced. I don't know what else to say, other than that you should make this at home. I'm trying to decide if that's even better than butter chicken.